Hey, what's up, Logos Personal Finance students? It is Wednesday, July 1st, 2020. That's right, we've made it to the month of July. Can you believe that? Started in March, made it all the way through April, May, now June. 3 months we've been doing this. Is actually day 67 overall of our e-learning experience. It's probably day 100 and something of the COVID-19 lockdown. But as I've been saying, we're almost through the end of week 4 of term 6, and then we just got a couple more weeks to go. We got a nice big holiday weekend coming up. So let's get some work done today. Look forward to some exciting Zoom meetings tomorrow, and then we got a nice long weekend to get us charged up for that final sprint to the finish line for term 6. So let's go ahead and get right on to Blackbaud. Get out of here and get into our Blackbaud class page, the bulletin board for personal finance, 6th term, 2nd hour. If you're in 5th hour, it's the same class. Room 136 if we were at Logos, but we're not. We're right here on the internet. Speaking of which, you have your e-learning instructions right there. And just a reminder, I mentioned it earlier, we have that Zoom meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. That's right. So look out for the link to that Zoom meeting. It'll be popping up on the bulletin board later today. I'll also be sending out the invites for those Zoom meetings via email in the Blackbaud messaging system, and then you will also be able to find the link under the assignments tab because it is an assignment. The Zoom meeting attendance is for credit, right? And so we'd like to see as many people as possible in those Zoom meetings, primarily because, yeah, it's going to help your grade, but more so than that, I like to hear and see you guys. I like to share some information about personal finance and help you out with any questions you might have about the activities on Econ Lowdown. So let's go ahead and check out Econ Lowdown, see what's on there for today. You know, we've been working a lot this week and talking a lot this week and starting last week about budgets, right? And that's a big part of this class, right? A big part of financial literacy, which is what we started was the last term off talking about. What is financial literacy? What does it mean to be a financially literate person? Being able to budget your money is a huge component of that. And budgeting is simply managing your expenses and your income, right? Making sure that those are in balance, right? Ideally, your income is higher than your expenses. If your expenses are higher than your income, that's when you run into debt. And that's something that, sometimes it's unavoidable, but for the most part, we want to avoid debt as much as we can. We want to be able to pay for the basic necessities that we need to be an adult, right? That's how you know you're an adult. When you can pay for your housing, when you can pay for your transportation, when you can pay for your phone bill, your electricity, your food, when you can keep yourself alive and be an adult on your own without someone else paying your bills, without your parents paying your bills, without the government paying your bills, or without your credit cards paying your bills, right? Being a responsible adult is being able to make enough money to take care of yourself. And then, again, spending that money wisely. And so we've talked about how you make that money. And this week, like I said, we've been spending time talking about how to spend that money and budget that money, right? Assign that money a job, right? It's easy. Well, it's not that easy, but it's one thing to get a job and make that money. But it's another thing to know what to do with that money. Because if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a budget, money goes away real quick, right? It's very, very easy to spend without thinking, right? If you don't have a plan. And that's the whole point of having a budget. And so we've been talking about, the last article from yesterday was about smartphones. What do smartphones have to do with budgeting? Well, your phone bill is a big part of your budget. We talked about your house or your apartment is probably the biggest part of your budget. But phone bill is pretty significant. Most people's phone bill is going to be between $50 and $100 a month, right? And we know, with the gist of that article, it's not about smartphones as much as it's about how we have to adapt, right? We can't just necessarily expect a budget to be exactly the same every month, let alone every year. You have to constantly go back and reevaluate that budget and say, okay, well, I'm going to have to spend more money here, but can I find a way to spend less money here, right? Oh, I'm going to be bringing in less money. Well, I'm going to have to figure out a way to allocate that money. And these things happen, right? Stuff happens. It had me thinking about this today, right? I mean, again, my family's budget has changed. I'm sure a lot of your families have too, since we went into this whole COVID thing, right? Um, our income has changed, right? My income from logos has stayed the same, but my other job is gone. DJing, I haven't done that since February, right? So I've lost that income. My wife's income, her job, is gone temporarily, right? She hasn't been working, but then she's been qualifying for unemployment payments. So her income, she's still making an income, and actually her income has gone up temporarily. But it's not just a change in income; it's a change in expenses, right? I am spending more money on certain things, maybe on food, because we're spending more time, at home eating, but spending less time or less time driving, and so less money on gas and car insurance. And so again, we have to make adjustments to the budget, right? If we don't make adjustments to the budget, then we're end up spending money without thinking about it. And that's where you run out of money and you end up still having expenses to cover and you go into debt. So we started looking at this article, which I think is a good article, smartphones and budget changes. And then we got to the quiz, right? And I saw the quiz and I said, oh, okay, this is easy, multiple choice. What is about 10 questions? Well, there are 10 multiple choice questions, but then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 short answer questions. So I want to help y'all out. Let's take a look at some of these short answer questions. Let's look at the first one, number 11. Today, most consumers consider a cell phone to be a necessity. There are choices when selecting the phone itself, the contract, and the options purchased. The basic cell phone is much less expensive than a smartphone, but more consumers are choosing the more expensive smartphone. Explain reasons why consumers are willing to pay more for smartphones. Well, that's a pretty easy question. It's long, right? It seems like, oh man, I don't want to answer that. Seems like a hard question to answer. But then when you think about it, you all own smartphones. Why would you rather have a smartphone than a flip phone? Everything smartphones can do, right? Smartphones can do a lot more, right? Which gives them more value, right? Lost my internet connection. Better get that back. Pay Charter, I think about $50 a month for internet. It's a big part of the budget, right? All right, that's easy. How about number 12? George is on a business trip and his flight includes a 2-hour layover between connecting flights. Before he had a smartphone, he usually sat in the airport and waited. Sometimes he read a newspaper to pass the time. Now he has a smartphone. What are some work tasks that George can complete during his 2-hour wait using a smartphone? How does having a smartphone affect the amount of work that George can complete? This is the point, right? George and others, like they said in number 11, we spend a lot more money on our smartphones than people back in the day did, but we can actually get more work done, meaning we can make more money because we have a smartphone. He can send and receive emails. He can, make a spreadsheet. He can read documents. He can do all kinds of things, right? So you could fill that one in. How about this one, number 13? Explain how the Chinese proverb, a wise man adapts himself to circumstances. As water shapes itself to the vessel that contains it, relates to managing a budget. It means you got to be flexible, right? It means a budget has to be flexible. And adjusted with changes in circumstances, right? That's a good one. And number 14, give possible reasons why the number of landlines continues to decrease. People don't need them, right? More people are using their cellular phones as primary home phone. Simple as that, right? Make sure you answer those in complete sentences, but again, it doesn't have to be a long answer. And then you got the multiple choice ones, which I'll let you work on these ones yourself. You do, it definitely helps if you do the reading to answer these questions. But let's go back and look at what else is on here before we close it out. You do have one more thing, new thing, written assessment. Do you have a bank account? And we'll talk about this more in the Zoom meeting tomorrow. But this is kind of a preview for next week, right? After you've paid all your bills, after you've paid your smartphone bill, after you've paid your car bill, after you've paid your rent, right? All your bills are paid. Ideally, like I said, your income is higher than your expenses. You have a little bit left over. What do you do with that, right? Well, some of it, go blow, have some fun, right? But some of it, a certain percent, and it should be a set percent, should be going into a bank account, right? So the question is, do you have a bank account, right? And why should you? So go ahead and answer that question. Work on if you haven't finished the Smartphone and Budget Changes article. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. in the Zoom meeting. Peace.